Hi, my name is John Hall from Mower Magic, and I've been involved in the selling, supporting and testing robotic mowers in the UK for over 18 years. Today I'm going to be showing you a brand new robot platform from Ambrogio. It's called the 4.0 Elite, side by side with the Husqvarna 430X Automower, which has been around for some time. Now the 4.0 is a really interesting product. Not only does it look totally different to any other robot on the market, including the rest of the Ambrogio range, it's been redesigned from the ground up and has got some really amazing patented design features never seen before. The 4.0 is the start of what they're calling Next Line, a modular set of robots which can be upgraded to the customer's requirements or in the future expanded to accept AI modules, and that's very exciting. So here we go, let's compare some of the key features and components of the Husqvarna 430X and the Ambrogio 4.0 Elite Premium, both with a rating is suitable for very large gardens. 3,200 square metres for the Automower and 3,500 square metres for the Ambrogio. Okay, let's have a look at some of the exterior features of these two robots, and we'll start with the bumper mechanism on the 430X. So the two robots use totally different mechanisms for detecting a collision with an obstacle. The Husqvarna has a floating top cover which is mounted on Hall effect sensors. The cover can move forward and backwards or side to side. So as the robot comes into contact with an obstacle, the cover is pushed back in either of these directions, and that changes the direction of the robot's travel. The robot will reverse away and change direction. The cover itself is made from a good quality ABS. It's about 5mm thick at the front and has a rubber overlay to give it a bit of protection. The front of the robot features two LED headlights for decoration, and the charging contacts are located here on this nose. So as the robot drives into the base station, it picks up its charging voltage through these two copper contacts. On top of the robot there's a large stop button. As you press the stop button, it also opens up the cover for the display. There's a carrying handle located underneath the rear of the robot, so if you want to carry it from the garage or the shed or to another lawn, you can pick it up through the rear. The only slight strange thing for me is when you pick it up, you're sort of pushing against the bumper springs, but it does the job just fine. Right, let's talk about the 4.0 Elite. This has a brand new design of bumper I've never seen before on a robot. It has a 40cm wide by 30mm thick reinforced EP&D soft touch bumper. It's got a large amount of travel, it's got 30mm of travel, and it's mounted on a compression spring to allow it to decelerate slightly as it comes into contact with an obstacle. And the idea is that it protects items in the garden that it regularly comes into contact with. This robot is also equipped with GPS obstacle mapping. So after the robot's touched an obstacle in the lawn a few times, it will remember where it is, and as it approaches it, it will slow down in advance, so it very, very gently touches up against it. Looking at some of the other exterior features on this robot, there's a rain sensor at the back here. You can see there's a rain sensor, and the charging contacts are actually on the rear of this robot, because this robot does a pivot and reverses into the base station, which is quite different to anything I've seen before. And there's also a convenient foldable stainless steel carrying handle here, which clicks into this little recess, so you can take it out for carrying and lift it through there. The deck itself features these rain holes, and it allows rainwater to wash through the deck and help to clear debris and build up. Again, that's a unique feature we've never seen before in a robot, and that rainwater can just filter straight through and help to keep underneath the robot nice and clean. Right, let's talk about user interfaces and displays. We'll start with the 4.0 Elite. Now on this machine the display is located underneath this rear cover. It's held down by two magnets, and the power button is located just here. This is a 5.5cm by 9.5cm colour touchscreen display that's located at a 30-degree angle, which makes it really easy to see and very clear in broad daylight. Once you've turned the machine on, you're prompted to enter your PIN code, and once the machine's warmed up, you can see various graphical options, and you can navigate in and out of the different menus just by touching the screen and selecting the options that you want. You can set things like your weekly schedule, or adjust the rain sensor sensitivity. You can add a delay to it, which allows time for the grass to dry. And if you're not sure what any of the icons mean, you don't need to get the instruction book out. You just press the question mark button here and select one of the icons that you want the explanation on, and it will tell you clearly in English what that option means. So that's really useful and makes it a lot easier and more user-friendly. From this menu you can adjust things like the height of cut. You can just go into the height of cut menu, dial in the height that you want, and you can hear the motor bringing the height of the blade up or down depending on what you've selected instantly, which is a really nice feature on this model. Back on the home screen, you've got various other indicators across the top here. Here we've got GPRS or mobile phone signal, and this side we've got GPS, so it shows that the robot's connected to the satellites. This is a Bluetooth indicator, so when the robot is connected to the mobile app for updating the software or schedule, you can see it's connected. And this is a battery level indicator, and the exclamation mark tells you information about the robot, like the software version, serial number, all that type of thing. So it's really straightforward and easy to operate, but very, very powerful. The other truly remarkable feature on the 4.0 is the new flex deck. The actual front of the deck can twist in either direction, and I'll go into that in a lot more detail later. Okay, let's look at the Husqvarna 430X. The display on this model is located underneath this top cover. It's opened by pressing on the stop button. The power switch is underneath the rear chassis of the robot. Now this robot features a black and white LCD display, which is 3.7 centimeters by 6.5 centimeters with a blue backlight. The beep sound in a moment will indicate that the robot's booted up and ready for the PIN number. And inside here you can see a traditional telephone style keypad and arrow keys and selection and back buttons. You can go into the menu and adjust things like the schedule is operated in here, and height of cut can be changed on this model in this menu as well. It doesn't take effect instantly. Once you select the height, the next time the robot is due to operate, it will adjust the blade whilst it's mowing automatically. It won't do it right in front of you unless it's in the lawn. Now this system feels a little bit old-fashioned, a little bit outdated for a product of this price. However, all of the settings can also be done via the mobile app, which, looking at this interface, I would probably say is the best option to do it through the app. But this just gives you an idea of what it looks like under here. Okay, let's talk about traction, and we'll focus on the drive wheels. Now, if you've got rough or undulating ground or sloping areas of the lawn, or perhaps you've got areas of the garden which remain wet because they're sheltered by trees, you're going to need really good traction. It's important to avoid turf damage or the robot getting stuck. Shown side by side here, we've got the Husqvarna 430X, and the drive wheels are made of a hard plastic which has got a very, very thin coat of rubber on it. The drive treads themselves are small rectangular studs. This robot doesn't come with any wheel cleaners as standard. You can purchase an accessory wheel cleaning kit, which I think is essential on a robot mower, especially if you're operating them towards the autumn and you've got leaves on the ground. There's going to be a lot of mulch and build-up that stick to the wheels, so having the ability to remove that is very, very important to remain with good traction. The wheels on the Ambrogio 4.0 Elite are made of a soft flex rubber. This is an EPMD rubber, and it's got a nice flexible feel to it with a thick tread running all the way through it. The wheel is made up of two components bolted together. Now this is a self-cleaning wheel. As it revolves, it runs on a flat spot which agitates any build-up of mulch or leaves and keeps it clear. There's an enormous amount of surface area contact, which I'll show you in a moment, with the ground. And you can actually get a spiked wheel accessory that fits between the two sandwich wheels, which is also self-cleaning. As the wheel revolves, the spike is pushed into the ground as the wheels flex back, and as the wheel continues to move forward, the spring back of the rubber cleans the spike, That's a great accessory if you've got some extreme slope conditions. Okay, we're going to compare the wheel width on the two robots. We'll start with the Ambrogio 4.0 Elite. On here we've got 66mm of width on the rubber flex tyre, and we'll compare it with the Husqvarna 430X auto mower. And here the width of the wheel is 32mm on the Husqvarna 430X. Right, let's look at the Husqvarna 430X wheel diameter and how much contact it has with the ground. Okay, the diameter of the wheels on the 430X is 24 centimetres, and the contact area it has with the ground is 2.5 centimetres. So if you take the 2.5 centimetres times by the 3.2, that gives you 8 square centimetres of surface area contact. It's quite a small, narrow wheel, and I wonder if on block paving or patios transitioning between lawns, whether that's enough, especially in wet conditions. Okay, now we're going to compare the Ambrogio 4.0 Elite wheel diameter and the surface area contact it has with the ground. We'll start with the diameter of the wheel. Okay, it's 26 centimetres on the diameter, and the contact it has with the ground, so 6.5 centimetres of surface area contact with the ground. Times that by the 6.5 centimetres of width, you've got a total of 45.5 centimetres of contact with the ground. That's square centimetres, 45.5 square centimetres of surface area contact, which is huge, and should give very, very good grip in all conditions and regardless of the surface type. Right, looking at the wheels in more detail now, we've got two of the rear drive wheels removed, one from each of the robots, and we'll look at how they're attached to the robot, but also the materials they're made from and their grip on a shiny surface like this table. So we'll start with the Husqvarna. The Husqvarna wheel for the 430X is made up of 3 parts. It's got the decorative plastic hubcap, and on the back it has a dust cover which covers the centre of the wheel. It's just to keep debris from building up on the inside, and it's an injection moulded wheel with plastic clips which hold the dust cover in place. There's 3 plastic clips which clip that on there. Now the way it attaches to the actual robot and drive is transferred from the gearbox to the wheel is this friction plate here. So this section of the wheel is pressed up against the outer ring of the drive shaft here. There's a 15mm centre core, and then there's a drive plate there with little ribs on it, and the wheel is attached using a nut and washer which press the wheel against that shaft, and so the drive is transferred onto this plate. So on a shiny surface or a hard surface, maybe like concrete or paving or slabs, there's very, very little grip with this type of sort of hard plastic, and these little tangs will dig into the turf fairly well, but on hard standing, transitioning between lawns, there's definitely not quite as much grip there, or in wet conditions. It's the very narrow tyre, it's that 32mm width, and that just shows you in a bit more detail there how that's put together. And we'll move on to the Ambrogio 4.0 wheel now. Now this is a really clever bit of kit in the way it's put together. There's a lot of work actually in these wheels. The tyres themselves are these nice squishy EPMD rubber, which is the same rubber used on car tyres, and there's actually 16 stainless steel bolts which hold the wheels together, and there's 8 on that side and 8 on that side, and they are not self-tapping either. They actually are into brass threaded inserts, so it's a really high quality wheel, and you can replace these tyres if you needed to, and they're fully serviceable, and the drive is transferred from this aluminium casting gearbox here using an 18mm hex drive, and the hex drive goes into a steel insert in the wheel there. So the drive is transferred directly into this insert, and then there's a bolt that holds the wheel onto the shaft. So it fits onto the shaft using that keyway. So if we look at the material weight, it's difficult on camera to really appreciate the difference in the materials used. So we'll weigh the wheels just so you can get a feel on the camera for how different they are. So it's 450 grams, so nearly 1.5 kilos on the Ambrogio wheel. That's just one wheel. And on the Husqvarna, if we put the wheel itself is just under 400 grams, and then with the dust cover you've got just over 500 grams. So there's nearly a kilo difference in raw material used in these wheels, which should show you that there's quite a big difference in the build quality there. How they perform on a flat surface, obviously on turf they're going to have a bit more grip, but on a hard surface you can see these slides very easily if I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on there. It slides. On the Ambrogio flex tyre, when pressure is applied, it goes to this nice flat spot which increases the surface area contact with the ground, and it really has got a lot of grip. I've never seen any robot mower on the market which has got such high performance tyres as this. So they really do perform well. That flex makes such a difference in comparison to the two. There you can put a great deal of weight down and it just slides very easily. I'll bring them up so you can see a bit closer how they're made. See the steel insert there, and these are the brass threaded inserts. And on this one the spiked wheel accessory can be sandwiched between the two wheel sections and bolted in, and they are self-cleaning. I haven't got a spike to show you, but as the spike protrudes into the ground, when it comes past the flat spot, it then cleans the spike. I'll show you close up the Husqvarna wheel. That's the inside section, so that's the friction drive plate area. So I hope that's given you a better understanding of how the two wheels compare. Okay, moving on to the front wheels now. Both robots use two front wheels that rotate caster style 360 degrees. If we start looking at the Husqvarnas, they have a 10 cm diameter by 3.2mm foam rubber coated treads. The axle is 8mm stainless steel round bar, and that is fixed into a plastic bush which allows rotation but doesn't allow any vertical travel or suspension, so these are actually fixed in place. When we look at the Ambrogio, these also have 10 cm in diameter wheels but 4.5 cm wide, so a bit wider, and this is EPMD rubber coated wheels. The actual cages which the wheels are attached to is 30mm by 50mm, so very substantial stainless steel cages. We'll look at those in a bit more detail in a moment. If I just turn that to the side, you can see the cage that surrounds this wheel is all in stainless steel. The actual cage itself has 12mm of suspension, but that's also coupled with the unique flex deck design. So the deck itself has a further 6 cm of travel. So you've got the 12mm of travel from the actual wheel, coupled with the flex deck, which can follow contours and rough ground. Brilliant if you've got undulations, or maybe it's some form of pasture that you're trying to turn into a lawn, and this will really help tame former meadow grass and turn it into nice lawn. It also keeps all four wheels firmly attached to the ground. I'll do a demonstration of that in just a moment, but you can see there the difference in the way that they're put together. Look at the wheel on the Husqvarna there. and the Ambrogio 4.0. Okay, following on from the front wheels, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the flex deck feature on the 4.0 that I mentioned earlier. Now, this is a brand new technology which allows the front end of the robot to twist and follow undulations or contours of your ground. And that's especially good if you've got areas which are bumpy or slopes, or maybe you've taken on a piece of land that used to be grazing and you want to turn it into lawn. Having the ability for the robot to follow those contours without getting stuck is a really big advantage. What we've done is I've put a piece of AstroTurf down and made a very gentle bump in the grass and just placed a book underneath here. It's about 1.5 centimetres and it just provides a very gradual hump. If I push the Husqvarna 430X over the hump, the front left wheel is ridden up onto that now. You'll see it affects the stability of the robot quite dramatically, because the two front wheels on this robot are fixed in place. They're not free to travel up and down. So the drive wheel is free to lift off the ground and traction can be lost. If I do the same demonstration with the flex deck, watch, I don't know if you'll see it on camera, but as the wheel rides up onto that hump, the robot is completely stable, but the deck at the front can twist slightly. The blade maintains a constant height from the ground and can shape it to the contours, whilst the rear drive wheels maintain that good stability. So I'll just drag that back off there and I'll show you on the Husqvarna again as that front wheel rides up over the bump. You can see how much it affects the stability. It really does. Even a very small bump in the ground can really make that rock from side to side. I'll show you from the front angle this robot. As the drive wheel rides up, you can just see, just drag it back again, you see the front of the deck twisting as it goes over the hump, like that. But the robot is completely solid, and if the bump was bigger, the deck is free to ride up further, keeping that nice shape and maintaining a constant contact with the blade of the ground. I hope you found that useful. In this section we're going to look at the blades on the two different mowers. We'll start with the Ambrogio 4.0. They've got a brand new cutting system on this one, totally different to the rest of the range. The cutting mechanism on this one is made up of 6 fixed cutters. Each of them are made from stainless steel, 1mm thick, and they have a useful cutting edge of 12 millimeters. Times that by 6 gives you a total cutting surface area of 7.2 centimeters. And with every revolution of this disc, you've got 6 contact points with the grass, so 6 cuts per revolution. The distance from the tip of the blade to the outside chassis on this machine is 10 centimeters. That's how close you can get to a wall or a fence. The blades are attached to an inner steel disc, which is then attached to a 4 centimeter aluminium blade boss. Now we'll look at the blades on the Husqvarna 430X. Most of the Husqvarnas use the same cutting system. This consisted of 3 of these 2 centimeter by 0.7mm stainless steel swing blades, and there's 3 of them attached to a plastic disc behind this aluminium sheet by Phillips screws. Now, although the blades themselves are 2 centimeters long, or the sharpened surface is 2 centimeters long, actually only 8 millimeters protrudes from the disc as useful cutting area. So if you combine the protruding cutting area of each of these 3 blades, you've got a total useful cutting surface of 2.4 centimeters. With each revolution of the disc, you've got 3 contact points with the blade, with the grass. So each time the disc revolves, you've got three blades coming across it. Now, the distance from the tip of the blade to the outside shell of the robot is 17 centimeters. So it's quite a big gap between the tip of the blade and the outside edge here. So along a wall or a fence, you've got at least 17 centimeters of uncut grass. These blades are recommended in the manufacturer's user manual should be replaced every 3 or 4 weeks depending on cutting conditions. So you'll need to unscrew these blades and replace them every 3 to 4 weeks. I forgot to mention the life expectancy of the blades on the Ambrogio 4.0. They're expected to last at least a full cutting season on one set. Looking how substantial they are, I would assume that you might even get more life out of those depending on the conditions, but they are extremely strong and robust. They're a bit thicker than the Husqvarnas. Looking at the two robots side by side at the underneath, we can see on the Husqvarna machine at the top here you've got a couple of cables that hang down and enter through the bottom of the chassis through these grommets. Look a little bit vulnerable, maybe could get caught on edging or brambles or something like that, but they're actually hanging down. It's a bit of a surprise. Not really a lot else under here that's user replaceable or accessible apart from the blades, obviously just with the Phillips screws. Looking down here, the power switch for the robot is located underneath here. This is the carrying handle just below it, and that's the main power switch. This port here is for dealer service, so if the robot goes in for repair or service, then the dealer plugs his laptop in there. Now the battery on this model is 18 volt 5.2 amp hour lithium ion battery. It's not user replaceable, so at the end of the battery's working life it will need to go to an authorised Husqvarna dealer to be replaced. Right, we'll take a look at the Ambrogio 4.0 underside in a bit more detail. We'll start with the jointing system. So this is the flex deck joint. It's made by 2-part cast aluminium with a bearing in the centre. It's a really smooth, feels extremely well made joint, and it allows the whole top of the robot to pivot and follow those contours. Looking around, you can see the cast aluminium gearboxes as they protrude through the side here. They're a planetary gear, extremely heavy duty, well made. You can also see at the side of the deck here these holes. These are the holes which allow the rainwater to filter through to help remove any debris that's built up under here, so wet grass or leaves, and the rain coming through there can wash that away. Now the battery on this model is a 26 volt 8.7 amp hour lithium ion battery, and this battery is actually user replaceable without any special tools. You can just remove the 4 screws from here, the battery pulls out, and the customer can change that themselves. This also forms part of their upgrade kit system, so if you've bought a lower specification model for a smaller garden, you can buy an upgrade kit, and the battery contains a Bluetooth chip which tells the robot what kit you've purchased, and that will change the software of the robot to allow it to cut a bigger lawn if you bought a bigger battery, or if you've moved to a smaller property and the battery wears out, you can buy a cheaper battery and it will reduce the specification of the machine. So very clever battery system on this model. Here right at the bottom is a winter charging socket, so that little blue cap there can be removed, and you can connect your power supply to it to charge it up over the winter in the garage or the shed. That's quite a nice feature to charge the battery whilst it's in storage. Looking at the top of the robot here, you can see the bumper compression spring mechanism. That's what gives it that nice soft touch feel as it comes into contact with an object. Right, we'll finish up by looking at the power supplies for the base station and the cable. So the Husqvarna 430X features a 26 volt 4.2 amp hour switch mode power supply. It's got 2 little wall mounts on it, as you can see there. It's IP rated and feels very sturdy and well made, and looks good quality. And then you've got the low voltage cable which takes the power from the power supply to the base station here. This looks a lot like a speaker cable or doorbell wire, not quite as substantial as I would have imagined, but there you go, that's the low voltage main power supply cable for the base station. On the Ambrogio 4.0 we have this 8.2 amp hour 29 volt switch mode power supply in aluminium casing. It's got wall mounts, so it can be screwed to a wall, and it's also IP rated for moisture protection. Feels very, very sturdy. Probably overkill for a robotic mower, but that's a good thing in some ways because it should last a long, long time. It looks extremely well made and good quality, reassuringly weighty. The cable on the 4.0 that takes the 29 volts to the base station is much thicker than the Husqvarna. Very, very sturdy cable. It's a double insulator, so it's got 2 core inside with thick insulation, and then this grey outer PVC insulation there. So that's really, really substantial. And one of the things that concerns me about the cable on the Husqvarna is if you were strimming around the base station and happened to catch that cable, or in the garden, maybe it's in a flower bed, I think you could quite easily nick that or cut through it with it just being singularly insulated. So it's definitely a lot more substantial on the Ambrogio. That brings us to an end, so I hope you've enjoyed the video and you found it informative. If you have, please give us a like on YouTube, and if you've got any questions, feel free to give us a call. We love talking about robots. Thank you.